On November 4, 2023, the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Dwight D. Eisenhower transited south through the Suez Canal into the Red Sea, along with two other ships from the carrier strike group, the cruiser USS Philippine Sea and the destroyer USS Mason, according to a statement released by the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet that controls the Middle East area of responsibility around the North Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf. It's the first time a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier has operated in the region since one of the Eisenhower's 10 sister ships, the USS Ronald Reagan, left to head back to her home port in Japan in 2021. In another milestone, before Ike left the Med, she and her escorts operated for 3 days with the USS Gerald R. Ford, the U.S. Navy's newest operational aircraft carrier that has been on station off the coast of Israel and Gaza, along with the other warships in the Ford strike group, since the Hamas attacks of October 7th. As reported by US 9 News, that brief two-carrier presence in the eastern Mediterranean was the first time that had happened since 2003, when the U.S. invaded Iraq. Also participating in the recent dual-carrier ops were the USS Mount Whitney, an intelligence command and control ship, and two Italian guided missile frigates. Sixth Fleet Commander Vice Admiral Thomas Ishii said, "Operating dual-carrier strike groups alongside allies and partners in a dynamic environment demonstrates our capability and capacity to respond with agility decisively to any contingency. Our presence sends a clear signal about our commitment to deter aggression and promote stability throughout the region." As mentioned in a previous episode, the Ford strike group was supposed to be heading home by now, but their deployment has been extended by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin as a result of the current crisis in the Middle East. The Ford has been operating in the Med since June, primarily in the Adriatic as part of the NATO presence mission that was created when the Russians invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. The Pentagon announced right before the Ike carrier strike group departed their home ports on October 14th that their ultimate destination was the Fifth Fleet area of responsibility, rather than relieving the Ford in the East Med or conducting dual carrier ops there for an extended period. The Eisenhower continuing to the North Arabian Sea and or the Persian Gulf is also a function of the 23 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria in recent weeks that the Pentagon has blamed on Iranian proxies. The Ike, the second oldest Nimitz-class carrier, has Carrier Air Wing 3 aboard, featuring the firepower of 4 Super Hornet strike fighter squadrons and 1 Growler electronic attack squadron. Adding to the U.S. Navy's Iranian-facing presence are 2 ships in the Bataan Amphibious Ready Group, the USS Bataan and the USS Carter Hall, with the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit embarked that have taken up station in the Gulf of Aden and North Arabian Sea, along with at least 3 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. As discussed in detail in a previous episode, the third ship in the ARG, USS Mesa Verde, remains in the eastern Mediterranean. Meanwhile, the Israel-Hamas war rages on. Already the deadliest Israeli-Palestinian conflict since Israel was established in 1948. The Gaza Health Ministry said that 10,022 people have been killed, including over 4,100 children and 2,600 women. More than 2,300 people are missing, according to the Health Ministry. Around 70% of Gaza's 2.3 million residents have fled their homes since the war began, and food, medicine, fuel, and water are running low. The humanitarian corridor to the south that was open briefly last week is now closed again. On the Israeli side, an estimated 1,400 have been killed, mostly civilians who were lost during the initial attacks that started the war. While the Israeli Air Force continues upwards of 450 strikes daily, which the IDF claims have killed a number of Hamas commanders, Israeli ground forces have advanced southward along the northwestern coast, and in the southern part of Gaza they've moved westward towards the neighborhood of Tal al-Hawa. IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Richard Heck said, "We're closing in on them. We've completed our encirclement, separating Hamas strongholds in the north from the south. The next phase of this war could be the bloodiest, as fighting shifts to close urban combat. Israeli troops are expected to enter Gaza City over the next few days, and the challenge to them will be getting Hamas militants out of the vast network of tunnels they've been building since 2007. In scenes reminiscent of what Marines faced during the Iwo Jima campaign in World War II, already the IDF has been ambushed by Hamas fighters who popped out of holes that the Israeli troops thought they'd already secured." The United States continues efforts to secure a pause in the war and a release of the hostages. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken just finished his second whirlwind tour, stopping in Jordan and Iraq, among other places, but the only statement he made to the press on his way out was that a plan to end the shooting, not to mention figuring out a post-Hamas Gaza, were, quote, "a work in progress," end quote. At the same time, President Biden had a phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, but White House representatives told the press corps that no agreement was reached. We'll continue to monitor this volatile situation and bring you updates as the information becomes available. So if you're not already a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything going forward. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please consider using the super thanks, the heart icon below, or become a patron at patreon.com/wardcarroll. And in the meantime, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.